think definitely it's been brutal in Tesla, to say the least. But I think as you look at the fundamentals of the stock, I think we continue to see calendar 25 shipments flat year on year, which could be a challenge Q1, where sales on shipments have been for the first 2 months of the year thus far. It's underperformed in China and Europe, especially, and also in the U.S. So there's definitely some challenges here. Some of it might be a little bit of I think some politicization of the trends there. But that said, we think they should still have a pretty good second half. There's obviously some headwinds with EU kind of rolling up all the CO2 emissions that they had, CO2 emission guidelines. So that takes out some of the urgency to be shipping out EVs in Europe as well. But yes, Tesla sales have been pretty soft, to say the least, in China and Europe especially. So
I want to point out, Vijay, I want to point out what Elon Musk was saying in the all hands to his own staff at Tesla. He said, if you read the news, it feels like Armageddon. According to a broadcast late Thursday, he referred to what's going on as a little bit of stormy weather. What he said was, the point he's making is hang on to your stock. But if you're a Tesla employee, the stock is down 50% from its highs. You're looking at the other Elon Musk enterprises like SpaceX, where the valuation has been soaring, or even X, where the valuation is pretty much where it was when he bought it. It has risen back again. Then wouldn't you be a little frustrated that you're holding Tesla stock and not something else he's made?
Yeah, definitely, Sonali. I think when you look at the volatility in Tesla, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. But I think the point also is, as you look into the back half, you have a Model Y starting to pick up. There is a lower cost Model Y version that should come on in China and the US. And so that should help drive some of the sales in the back half. But, definitely there have been significant challenges, and it is definitely a little bit of a headwind to morale, and that does not help. But again, even when you look at some of the things that they've said on the robotics side, you're now seeing NVIDIA talk about robotics as a 50 trillion industry that, obviously Tesla started talking, and now you have one of the big bellwethers in the tech market, NVIDIA, also talking robotics. So there are some, tailwinds starting to emerge. Obviously, the core EV business has not been good, as I mentioned, in US, Europe, and China. And so we think going to the back half, a portfolio refresh will probably help. So,
well, you have the President of the United States doing an infomercial, which is helpful for your product. And the Commerce Secretary giving investment advice, telling investors to buy the stock. So those two things, that's tough to get, that kind of publicity. Let me ask you about a different company. I want to talk about Micron for a moment. The company came out with better than expected earnings and also gave a decent outlook, and yet the shares are down. Why do you think Micron is doing poorly? Is this just a part of the broader kind of AI malaise?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the sentiment on the AI side has cooled. Some of the investor sentiment has definitely cooled off, as you can see from the valuations and multiples on the leaders in the space, from NVIDIA and down. And so I think some of it is that. But I think if you look at Micron, they have executed very well. On the HBM side for AI, their revenues are growing 100% in the back half and 100% year on year into 2026. So we think they are doing very well on both HBM DRAM that goes into AI servers, but also on the NAND side, where they are starting to ship into AI servers with SSDs. There's been a little bit of focus on the margin side, margins being down a little bit here into the next quarter. But a lot of that is driven by some more consumer mix, some underutilization on their fabs, some startup costs. But I think that people might be missing the big picture, which is that their execution on AI servers, on HBM, on NAND has been very solid. So we would actually look to be using this weakness to get, add to position. We obviously are evaluating. We like the name here. We think the roadmap looks pretty solid for them.
Yeah, the margin miss is pretty small, right? They forecast 37.9%